Weather Desk. The threat of severe storms returns to the south. We're tracking the risks through tomorrow. Fire danger. After weeks of flooding, northern Wisconsin now faces the possibility of wildfires.
It dries out really quickly and fire can spread through that, especially if you have wind like this.
Frozen crops. A cold snap is bad news for Virginia farmers. How the daily weather impacts people living with lupus. And a dramatic rescue in the Gulf that didn't involve a lifeguard. 2 teens are safe thanks to a remote-controlled rescue device.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Severe storms are expected today and tomorrow in portions of the south. The greatest impact today are expected in an area that includes Dallas, Memphis, Little Rock. Damaging winds and large hail are the main threats, with a few tornadoes also possible this afternoon and evening. Tomorrow, the storm moves east with Birmingham and Jackson, Mississippi and northern Louisiana at risk. Always remember to stay weather aware and have a way to receive those warnings. Meantime, in Colorado and Wyoming are bracing for feet of snow. 1 to 2 feet of heavy, wet snow are expected in the Rockies, Rocky Mountains, with more than 4 inches in Denver. The snow will likely down trees, damage branches, and also destroy some gardens. On the bright side here, it could put a dent in the region's ongoing drought. Not too long ago, parts of Wisconsin were soggy because of rain, snow melt, and flooding. Now in the northeast part of that state, the fire danger is high. Emily Matestik has more.
You wouldn't think with all this rain we'd have a fire danger now, but things dried out in a hurry.
And in Oconto County, the fire danger is listed as very high. Dry, warm, and windy conditions creating the perfect storm for even a small spark to start a potentially big fire as wildfire season has arrived.
The flooding definitely dampened it for a while, but we have what's called our 1-hour fuels that are kind of in danger right now. That's stuff like grass and all that light stuff. It dries out really quickly and fire can spread through that, especially if you have wind like this. It can cause a wind-driven fire.
The wind and dry conditions a concern Monday morning when the Little River Fire Department and the DNR were called to the Des-Jarlis property. A passerby pulling into the driveway alerting the residents about the fire in their yard.
Flames were about 10 feet in the air before they got here. And weather like this could take a coal across the road and start a fire in a ditch or something, so we knew we had to call it in.
The DNR determined a spark or piece of ash from this outdoor wood-burning stove escaped, lighting a nearby pile of wood on fire. While it was an accident and no one's fault, it's an example of the need for caution and awareness while fire danger remains high.
It could have spread relatively fast if it was in the right conditions, right spot. You know, dry grass, leaf litter, high winds. It's very dry out here. Yeah, my hard hat's almost blowing off. So, you know, this thing could have taken off if it wasn't right in a green lawn. You know, if it was somewhere on a field edge, it definitely could have spread fast.
Well, many regions often see wide temperature swings during the spring, but high daytime temps and overnight freezes are bad news for farmers. Mason Willett reports from the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia.
What happened this year has been very volatile for weather. We've had some very, very warm days, and then we suddenly have these cold snaps.
For Mary Godinez, the owner of Cross Keys Farms,
There's some here that are actually in full flower, not buried yet.
she says the rapid change in weather from day to night can be devastating.
It takes a tree or a plant about 3 weeks to prepare to freeze, and it takes it about 6 hours to break dormancy. So when we have a week that's 80 degrees and then it goes down to 25 that night, the plants just can't do anything about that.
Those sudden freezes have already taken a toll on her farm.
We lost a lot of the tree fruit. There's still juries out. We thought we'd lost absolutely everything.
But when it came to their blueberries, there was some unexpected good news.
I didn't want to see the bad news, and I finally broke down and came out a couple days ago and really looked. And happily, it doesn't look like we've had any damage on these at all.
A relief in a season filled with uncertainty, especially as other fruits remain at risk.
The raspberries, for the most part, have just finished flowering, and so if we really go below freezing this weekend, which is a possibility, you know, it's a possibility those are going to freeze.
And she says it's not just their farm feeling the pressure.
We're hearing across the board, across the eastern seaboard, that we have a lot of customers that are up in Pennsylvania and North Carolina, Georgia, and all of them really got hit by this last freeze.
Well, the weather impacts every area of our lives, but for people with certain diseases, there is an extra scrutiny. Meteorologist Veronica Johnson explains how the weather affects people living with lupus.
For most of us, the forecast is about comfort. But for people living with lupus, the weather can directly impact their health, sometimes triggering painful flares. I sat down in the studio with lupus warrior Cherokee Carol and Dr. Leonardo Giajono to understand just how closely weather and this disease are connected.
The lupus has really impacted every facet of my life, from how I live and work to how I'm navigating travel, to picking clothes out in the morning.
For Cherokee, even getting dressed starts with one thing: the forecast.
What can I wear that's comfortable and safe? That is generally my first step. So I like to dress in layers. So if at a point it gets too warm in the day, people with lupus tend to have trouble regulating their body temperature when it's too warm. So I want to be able to come out of a sweater and still feel comfortable.
Temperature swings matter, but one of the biggest concerns this time of year is the sun.
The sunlight emits a certain wavelength of spectrum. It's something called UVA and UVB. What is very important is that the UVA can actually make patients, whether it's just skin lupus or also systemic lupus, to flare with their disease.
That means something you see every day in the forecast. The UV index can be critical for people living with lupus.
Yes, that is exactly correct, especially the wavelength called UVA. That's the one that causes the damage and the flaring.
So protection isn't optional, it's essential.
So we're putting hats on, we're using sunglasses, we're wearing sunscreen, we're covering our exposed skin. We want to make sure we minimize as much exposure to UV rays as possible.
Doctors recommend broad spectrum sunscreen, especially those with zinc oxide, along with layering clothing to adapt as conditions change.
The zinc oxide is a physical sunscreen, is probably one of the best to protect yourself from flaring of cutaneous lupus and shield the UVA.
Because for many, lupus is invisible, but its impact is constant, shaped day to day by the weather.
Lupus is known as an invisible illness, and that can have a big impact on how folks are able to develop their support system. There's a lot of compassion involved in managing lupus, whether it be with the families, whether it be with your care providers. So just making sure that we're raising awareness.
Awareness, preparation, and watching the forecast a little more closely. For those living with lupus, the weather isn't just a backdrop, it's part of the battle.
Well, 2 teens were rescued from Gulf waters over the weekend. Lifeguards dove into those waters to get them. Instead, rescuers used a new swim-controlled raft to bring them to safety. Haley Samples has details.
A Saturday outing on the beach turning into a call for emergency responders. That's what happened in Fort Morgan when 2 swimmers on a float drifted hundreds of yards offshore and into the Gulf.
They didn't realize how far they were out and they couldn't get back in on their own.
Corporal Holt Johnson says that's when a Baldwin County deputy deployed this. It's called a U-Safe. It's a rechargeable, remote-controlled buoy. Johnson says it operates similar to a jet ski. It takes in water and shoots it out the back. With the click of a button, the device will navigate towards a swimmer in need.
It doesn't take any skills really to work this. It is basically, it's a small handheld remote control. You throw it in the water and it goes.
The U-Safe can travel up to 10 miles per hour. The device automatically goes into action once it hits the water.
When you're on the beach and somebody's in the water, seconds count, and it saves us a tremendous amount of time.
He says the sheriff's office secured the U-Safe in December. In the past, first responders would rely on more traditional rescue methods like a boat or swimming out with rescue equipment. Johnson says the fast-acting tool cuts down on time. It also makes rescues safer by putting fewer bodies in the water for rescues. Johnson says the U-Safe costs $10,000 per device.
It's expensive, but it's worth it. When you start counting into what's somebody's life worth, it's no comparison.
And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how firefighters train to battle woodland wildfires, and we'll help you better understand rip currents and what makes them so dangerous. And time now for a short break, but first we'll take in the views of Snoqualmie Falls in Washington State.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. It's a warm-looking Tuesday in the Northeast with most towns topping out in the 70s and low 80s. There'll be some exceptions, particularly in northern New England, where there'll be spots in the upper 60s there. We're starting with a lot of sun. We're introducing a few showers, first into New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Our best chance or greatest risk for a shower or thunderstorm area-wide will be late this afternoon and evening. Some of these may become strong to severe. Some more rain moves in on Wednesday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Looking dry as we move through the rest of your Tuesday. Wednesday, we will see this front approaching, bringing good rainfall chances. That will also linger into Thursday as well. Some rainfall absolutely needed. Temperatures will be very warm for your afternoon. We're talking 70s to 80s everywhere. And then as that front approaches and the rain will be around, we may see those temperatures a bit cooler for your Wednesday. Upper 60s to the low to mid 70s.
Hi, meteorologist Jennifer Collins with a look at your southeast forecast. Warm and humid conditions across the southeast for your Tuesday, with temperatures running in the upper 70s, low 80s across the Carolinas, the mid 80s for most of central and south Florida, with the upper 70s for the northern Gulf Coast. High pressure remains in control. This will leave our weather pattern quiet for most of Tuesday across the Carolinas. A few pop-up showers in parts of the Florida Peninsula through Tuesday afternoon, with a chance for rain increasing across Mississippi River Valley heading into Wednesday.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Fighting wildfires is no joke, but just the danger from the flames, but the fitness required to actually travel to get to them. David Ochoa has more.
Before firefighters can attack a wildfire, they need to train and test.
We need to ensure that every one of our firefighters has the ability to hit the fire ground in tip-top shape.
To do that, wildland firefighters like John Smith and those at the North Tooele Fire District in Utah must pass the PAC test, which means completing 3 miles in under 45 minutes while wearing a 45-pound vest.
The fire that we're going to may be miles away from where we take everything off the truck. So everything that we take needs to be carried either by hand or by harness.
The test is done every year, not just by Utah firefighters, but every wildland firefighter in the country. That way firefighters from Tooele County can go and help out in other states and vice versa, and join up seamlessly.
So I'm going to be trying my hand at this PAC test with 0 training, so I'll be happy if I just finish. But I obviously can't do it looking like this, so I need to go get changed so I can do this comfortably.
We headed over to a local high school and got geared up.
How's that feel? Heavy. That's good. That means you did it right.
And then we got right to it. Tooele County Fire Warden Dan Walton was there to track times.
On your marks, get set, go.
All right, here we go. Lap number 3 done. It's not easy. Told me I was at 38 minutes, so I got 7 minutes to finish this lap. Feeling pretty good about that. Finish strong. 41-23. Good
job.
I'll take it.
Yeah, we'll see you out there, man. We're going to need the help this year.
That's because they're expecting a busy summer.
If it does not cool down or start raining, and I mean soon, we're going to be dealing with some very large fires in the year 2026.
So as we get into the summer months and you see all of those firefighters across the country up in the hills, in the fields, fighting those fires in the heat, carrying their gear, and just doing everything they need to do, you'll know it started with training just like the PAC test we saw here.
An invasive beetle has made its way into Maine. Meteorologist Ryan Munn has more about the new discovery and what's being done about it.
The emerald ash borer made its first appearance in Maine in 2018. Recently, this beetle made a new appearance across northern Maine in Benedicta.
It's difficult to detect when it's in low populations. This has been there for a while. You can tell from some of the callus on the tree. And so it is more than likely in more than one tree and may well have spread beyond that area.
This insect is a metallic wood-boring beetle that's native to Asia, but has made its way here.
When it does feed on ash trees in North America, it kills almost all of the ones that it infests. And the way that it kills them is it tunnels beneath the bark of the tree, and those tunnels end up cutting off the flow of water and nutrients beneath the bark.
This process can happen fast as the emerald ash borer can reproduce very quickly. So the Maine Forest Service focuses on establishing control of the emerald ash borer by placing natural enemies in the area where they're found.
Those are little tiny wasps that develop either within or just outside of the body of the emerald ash borer, and they consume it. And they help to take the edge off the populations.
They also use insecticides as well. But to curb the spread of this beetle, it's important to not transport out-of-state firewood.
Beach season is almost here. Along with fun in the water is the risk of rip currents. Even the most experienced swimmers need to be on alert. Jason Ty has more.
So how often do you guys go to a beach?
As much as we can, probably. The kiddos, we divide and conquer. We keep our eyes on them and stay with them at all times, pretty much.
Rip currents account for approximately 80% of the rescues that lifeguards perform.
It can be challenging because they're excited, so they want to run a lot of directions, but we just try to keep up with them.
A couple weeks ago, Alphonse Fire Department was dispatched to a report of a swimmer in distress. Thankfully, there were some bystanders that had a flotation device. They were able to go out. The individual, it was a younger kid, so they kind of traveled out into the water a little too far and got caught up in the rip current. Most time they move, 1 to 2 feet per second, but they can move up to 8 feet per second. So they can even overcome the strongest swimmer.
We have very clear conversations about expectations before we get out of the car when there's going to be water around about what's safe, what's not safe, what's allowed and what's not allowed.
When we know that season's getting ready to start back up, we're in the water, we're in the pool, we do our swim comp, and then we get out into the ocean because there's nothing like going in the ocean and feeling the current yourself.
Music has been a fundamental part of civilization since the beginning of time, a universal experience found across all cultures. And some of the biggest sounds to sweep the world were first played here in America. From blues and jazz to country and bluegrass, from rock and roll to Motown, funk, disco, and hip hop. The sound of America is diverse yet deeply connected. The electric pulse of a Saturday night on the town, or the harmony of a church choir on Sunday morning. American music is rooted in tradition and constantly reinventing itself, at times distinctively new. Key genres like blues and jazz that emerged in the late 19th and early 20th centuries from artists like Ma Rainey, B.B. King, and Louis Armstrong take notes from the Deep South, found in the African-American work songs and spirituals from the days of slavery, which were rooted in the West African tradition of call and response, a tradition you'll also find in gospel music, another distinctively American genre. When you hear country and bluegrass birthed in the 1920s through 40s, you'll notice a rural Southern sound mixed with European folk roots. Its origins traced to the people who came to America in the 1600s from Ireland, Scotland, and England. As they settled, they wrote songs about daily life in the new land. The storytelling that the foundational artists like Jimmie Rodgers, Bill Monroe, Hank Williams, and Loretta Lynn did so well, still fundamental to the genres. Next thing you know, it's the 1950s and rock and roll is mainstream. The King, Elvis Presley, revolutionizing American music and culture. Fast forward to Motown, the dominant musical force during the 60s with chart-topping black artists and hundreds of #1 hits. It's a sound that greatly influenced and defined modern hip-hop and R&B, two of America's most popular genres today. For Amazing America, I'm Taylor Murray with the National News Desk.
And as we head to break, views of Bryce Canyon National Park.
Well, a very good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. Cool temperatures across the northern plains with mostly cloudy skies. Rain, though, across the Ohio Valley. And as we head into the day tomorrow, it continues kind of moving its way out of the Ohio Valley. By the time that we get to your Thursday, a little quieter and drier for most of the Midwest, with temperatures kind of mild for a lot of us. A few 70s, a lot of 60s and 50s.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Pretty warm, very humid all the way back up into Oklahoma. 70 this morning. We're looking 70 down to the south into Brownsville, also 77. Cold front comes into town. That means big storms have developed right up into this region. We've got a very storm risk going on from Arkansas down into northeast Texas. The afternoon is going to be breezy, hot, and humid. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there and a good Tuesday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, it definitely looks like spring should this time of year, if not a little bit warmer than that. Mid-70s for both the Emerald and the Rose cities. Coastal California stuck in the May gray, per usual, just 62 downtown San Francisco. 70, though, in Reno and 80 in Boise. Showers and thunderstorms continuing to erupt over the Four Corners near Denver this afternoon. And that's the scene from here.
And good news for salmon. NOAA announced a new effort to help with conservation and recovery of the fish. Theron Zahn has that story.
Pacific Coast salmon runs are both sacred to native tribes and critical for recreation and professional fisheries. NOAA Fisheries has just announced up to $99 million for conservation and recovery projects in West Coast states and Alaska. The money is coming from the Pacific Coastal Salmon Recovery Fund. The fund was created by Congress back in 2000 to reverse the decline of Pacific salmon populations. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says 28 species of salmon are endangered and at risk of vanishing from rivers and streams. NOAA says many other populations not on the list are not far behind after substantial reductions in their numbers. Much of the nearly $100 million is aimed at restoring habitat that's either blocked or damaged. The goal of the new money is to restore more areas where salmon can spawn and make it easier for fish to get to those spots. Often projects to restore salmon habitat are headed up by local native tribes. Those projects can pay off in sacred runs rebounding and a strengthening of the U.S. fishing industry, because abundant salmon runs make all of our lives in the Northwest richer.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great day, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.